What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Week 4 Projections Podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and with me, I got one of the most accurate rankers of the last decade, numerous trophies at Fantasy Pros, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, how you feeling? How's it going? How was your week 3? Are you excited to have a whole nother week of data now? Now we have an actual meeting because we have 2 weeks and then a third one.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Starting to get in the swing of things. Feel like I'm hitting midseason form. Had a good week in betting and fantasy. I think I had a decent week in Fantasy Pros. It's still early in there. Not worried about that, but I think this is the time of year you and I start to get our edge once we do have a few weeks of data, which is enough to kind of take away certain things and enough for everybody else to kind of over and underreact. So I think this is, again, kind of the sweet spot, and I think we're hitting our midseason form right now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some guys, because they're, once you start getting 3 weeks and there's, guys aren't doing anything or like they didn't kind of adjust, because some guys got back to it, like Cortland Sutton kind of got back to it, so it was like, okay, Mark Andrews got back to it, but there were some guys who didn't. So we'll talk about some of those, and we'll give out our top 5, our guys we're high and low on, and then some props, which I'm sure we'll get into some of the guys who are being over and underreacted to. Quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content available right now over at fantasylabs.com. Includes in-season rankings, waiver wire tips, and more. We've also added a survivor pool tool to help you make informed picks and hopefully avoid those upsets. We saw the Packers go down in week 3. So be sure to use code FLEX20, that's FLEX20, to get $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. All right. We'll start with quarterbacks, but as we do every week, Cardio King gets crowned for tight end and wide receiver, and those are the players that ran the most routes without a target, which is not what we want in fantasy. So, Kerner, take it away. Who we got this week? Last week, our favorites were who? I think Slayton and Kate Otten, was it?
Well, I said Cole Kmet, or
Oh yeah, Cole Kmet. Sorry,
Cole Kmet, Kate Otten are usually the favorites when it comes to tight ends. I thought Slayton was the favorite wide receiver, and he should have been, but he does run a ton of routes, so it's probably likely he does stumble into one target every week. But yeah, the Cardio King for tight end last week was none other than Kate Otten himself. I mean, at this point, we might just need to name the award after him. So like the Cardio King with like a statue of Kate Otten. 31 routes.
Lombardi. He's the Lombardi of Cardio King.
Yeah, like seriously, we should have him on the show and congratulate him, give him the trophy. I don't know if he'd like that.
Now he's getting targets. He probably has free time on Sunday.
Exactly. So 31 routes without a target. That's impressive stuff right there. I think his routes run rate was actually down too. So something to monitor there. And then at wide receiver, I think we said this guy was kind of a favorite. You definitely alluded to it a couple times last week, but it was our guy, Andre Yoshi. Something that was a bit surprising to me was he led the week with 16 routes without a target. And then I was looking to see who the number 2 receiver was, and it looks like it was Trent Sherfield with 8 routes without a target. And I got to say that it seems like every week there's, a handful of wide receivers that you'll see, 10 plus routes without a target. This week, we didn't really see that. And you were talking about that could be kind of due to the kickoff rules, the way, teams are handling passing offenses in general. So what are your thoughts on we're not seeing as many Cardio Kings out there running routes without a target? Like everybody that ran 10 plus routes other than Yoshi saw a target last week.
Yeah. So I think it's due to, well, first of all, the reason why we do like Cardio Kings is because it can make the other guys in the offense more consistent. Like, got Emeka Egbuka for Tampa Bay, guys like, Chase and Higgins, you would think for the Bengals, but, we got to talk about them too, because they do other weird things. But overall, I think the reason why we're not seeing as many wide receivers go untargeted at high route counts anymore, because the way teams are doing it now is they're splitting up, like almost everyone just uses 1-1 personnel on any passing late down. There's not a lot. There's almost no 4 or 5 wide anymore. Maybe a couple teams might do it outside of Hail Mary situations for maybe a couple plays a game. And then everyone on early downs is doing heavy personnel, 2 tight end. And so you just have these, anytime a receiver's on the field, they're just a little more likely to get targeted now because they're on field on key situations where it doesn't make sense to throw short. And then on the early downs, you're because you have heavy personnel, usually play actioning, or like one guy might be staying in a block. So it's just, you're competing with less players for targets on those routes as well if you're a wide receiver, versus back in the day you had more just wide receivers running routes alongside 3 other wide receivers, which made it, somebody was going to go targetless. But now it's just a little switched up. And then you also have the fact that there are less drives per game now because of the kickoff rules, and the penalty rules have kind of the teams are kind of sustaining drives and not taking as many chances, not turning it over as much. So it's just kind of been like these more high percentage route runners in general. Like you don't see as many of these guys that are old fashioned like clear out guys anymore. I mean, maybe I guess Thornton might be one, but you don't really see that because everyone's just playing too high shell anyway. So you don't have to, you don't have to clear them out if they're already cleared out.
Which Thornton are you talking about?
Dante?
Taekwon or Dante? Oh, Taekwon's the clear out guy, but Taekwon's the clear out guy, but Mahomes is targeting him a shit ton. So
yeah,
he could be a cardio king, but Mahomes is trying to hit him deep. So, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing too. And it's making guys that I was high on. I'm second guessing because I was expecting more cardio kings and this, that, or the other. But it's definitely a trend that we need to be monitoring and adjust to.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I like the fact that we're starting to see some sites with like that first read data and stuff like that. So that's kind of informative because you could see who's being the first read on plays, and are they getting the targets on those plays? And you start to realize that most plays are going to be drawn up for wide receivers, and then those slot kind of tight ends, and then outside of that, like tight ends are getting drawn up targets in the red zone, but. So like a guy like Otten, if they're not in the red zone and they go a week where it's just kind of a weird play field position thing or whatever, he might end up going targetless just because that's how they're kind of drawing it up, and they have such good receivers. So it kind of goes both ways, but definitely impacts things. Like I think Tanner Connor instead of Jonnu Smith for Miami was kind of helping Tyreek and Waddle out, which is now Waller. Maybe that's a little different. So that's something to kind of watch for this week. But let's start at quarterback before we get into it. Week 4 favorite cardio king. Any
haven't had a chance. I would still say, Cade Otton. Obviously, I still think Cole Kmet's up there. Although we'll have to monitor Loveland's injury. Wide receiver Yoshi has to be the favorite now every week, right?
Yeah. Or somebody on the Broncos or Patriots maybe, but probably I would probably
Marvin Mims,
I'd say Yoshi.
Maybe, but
because Sean Payton's a sicko. He's drawing something up for him every week.
Maybe someone in the net like Demarcus Robinson might come back this week and run 10 routes. That might be good enough to be up there. It's
Niners. Also team based. It is team based because you look at it like a team like the Niners. They're very intentional about their first reads and who's getting targets. So especially with Purdy back. I think that's whoever starts is that. If it's Robinson, definitely he's in that mix, I would say for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to quarterback, top 5 for week number 4. Sean Kerner.
I got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and then Caleb Williams and Drake May.
Woo! Drake May entered in top 5. We didn't know if it would be like right away. We just love the upside, but he's kind of been in that conversation just with the shit show that's the Patriots. They keep giving away scoring chances. That's how you increase your drives. Just keep giving the ball away and then make it stops. I got Josh Allen, Lamar, Hurts. Would have Jaden Daniels there if he played at number 4, but doesn't as of now. We don't know. So Mahomes number 4, and then Drake May number 5. Yeah,
nice. Where do you have Caleb? Is he close? Is he inside your top 10?
He's like 8 or something like that. Yeah. That Dallas defense is kind of easy to see it coming a little bit now. It's, he's on the road. Probably still a good matchup, but I do respect the Raiders scheme a little more, and I think just a little more variance. But yeah, I like Caleb. He looked a lot better, a lot calmer. I think.
Yeah.
Last week, so maybe getting
Good
that
game for
monkey
his
off his back.
confidence. Yeah, obviously an
Yeah.
easy matchup. His confidence is key for me. So rolling into Vegas, maybe Crosby gets him to scramble more. I think just good things are coming for Caleb, and this is another plus matchup for him.
Yeah. It's just it's still early. It's like some of these quarterbacks they're just naturally at higher variance because they don't run as consistently as those top tier of guys. Like I know we were talking about a guy like Bo Nix. Some weeks it's just not going to be there. So I think Caleb's still in that range for me. Like I think eventually even Daniel Jones ends up there. He hasn't yet, and maybe that'll be this week. Maybe it won't be, but there's Dak is kind of in that conversation. He's just you never. It's always hit or miss. But let's start it off with who we are high on. Who you got for this week?
I'm going to go Geno Smith to keep our trend of flip-flopping between our waiver pod and projections pod. I talked about Dart on the waiver pod. I think he's an excellent long-term ad, but you hit it with Geno Smith. I think he's the short-term ad this week. He's my QB 11. So right there on the, low-end QB1 spectrum. But the Raiders have just needed to be more pass-heavy so far with just the run game not clicking so far, and I don't even think we can blame Genty for that. I think it's definitely the offensive line mostly to blame. But either way, Geno Smith is going to just have to keep throwing, and he has a ton of quality pass catchers in Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, and now Trey Tucker, who we've always been talking about. I know our guy Nick's always high on him, and they have Thornton as the clear out guy. So he's got a lot of options. And this is a spot where it could be a shootout against the Bears. So, yeah, I think that he's a low-end QB1 option. And he's always done much better in domes indoors. And now that he plays in a dome at home, like we're going to see more of those dome games, including this one. So maybe that's a slight boost as well, if you believe in that theory. But, yeah, he's my QB 11 to open up the week.
Yeah, they might even have to play more 1-1 personnel depending on I think Michael Mayer's in the concussion protocol.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he gets cleared. But not mistaken, it's not his first concussion, so it might be a week or two there. But
I'm assuming he sits this week.
Yeah.
It'll be Ian Thomas. But more Brock Bowers, which is good for everybody, is the result of that, and then some Ian Thomas sprinkled in.
Yeah, or just more Tucker and Thornton and Bash and all those guys. I am high on Daniel Jones again, and I do expect him to start, kind of making some mistakes and not necessarily keeping up this just Colts undefeated type of MVP conversation campaign. We've seen this a ton in the past with these kind of guys. Like Sam Darnold had the good year last year, but if you remember Carolina a few years ago, he also had like a 3-game stretch that was crazy and then fell off. But the reason I do feel decent about Jones this week on the road, 2 reasons really. Number one, indoors at SoFi, which, start getting in deeper into the season, and there's certain games, a lot more games are going to be outdoors that could be affecting the passing games. And then the Colts really haven't been in trailing game scripts this whole year. And so Jonathan Taylor has also just been going off. He looks great. But we saw the Rams go up 26-7 on the Eagles. Don't want to talk about it after that. Had the Rams plus 3.5. And I don't know how that one, like, you catch bad beats every year, but that was one I don't even think you see coming, even if they do get the kick blocks. That was rough. But the point being, you could see the Colts in just more trailing game script, which just means more drop back opportunities for Jones, which means more scramble opportunities. And some throws down the field, and just more risks having to be taken. And so, maybe he turns it over, fumbles or something like that, but still should get there on the stat sheet. And we need those running quarterbacks. We have Dart added to the mix. Jets are going to have a running quarterback regardless who it is, probably. So it's still important to get those guys that can add a little with their legs. I think that's why Caleb has been solid as well. So that's who I'm looking at for this week.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't play outdoors until week 9 at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So that's a good schedule for him. And even though, Alec Pierce might miss this week, they got a guy like AD Mitchell to fill in there. They just have a ton of options where I think he's going to have a high floor, even if, some of his pass catchers go down, which he never really had on the Giants. So yeah, I'm high on Daniel rest of the way as well.
All right, who you low on at quarterback?
Got to go Dak Prescott here against the Packers. He's all the way down to QB 24 for me. So, low end QB 2, which is not what you drafted if you took Dak. But just multiple reasons why he's all the way down there. Obviously, he just lost CeeDee Lamb for potentially weeks, right? He might go on the IR, so he might be out at least 4 games. That's going to be a massive blow for Dak because he's going to be able to lean on George Pickens and Jake Ferguson more now, but I think just not having Lamb there is going to make it easier to slow down Pickens downfield. So sort of a compounding effect there, but this is just a brutal matchup against, this Packers defense. But more importantly, this is the game that Micah Parsons has had circled for weeks now in the ultimate revenge spot. And unfortunately for Dak, he is the target for Parsons here. I think Parsons is going to bring it here. And, I would not be shocked if he gets to Dak a few times, really puts, some pressure on Dak. And Dak's not going to use his legs. So this is a very low floor spot for Dak. So if you have him, I'd be looking elsewhere in a lot of different formats. So yeah, Dak's all the way down to QB 24 for me in week 4.
Yeah, Dak is. I kind of alluded to this. I think it was, it might have been the week he went off, so it went for naught. But just in general, like he's really a guy who it's hard. He's kind of like a Matthew Stafford, where usually when he tops out, it's still not gonna get you as much. Now, he had that just complete crazy shootout against the Giants where. Yeah, Russ was throwing for 450. I mean, that might mess up models for the whole year. Because it was like the next week I was like, wait a minute. I was looking at Russ like, okay, now he's going against Spags in an outdoor game. This just screams not it. And then, say like Dak was outdoors. That was a bad defense, so it shouldn't have been as bad as he was. But yeah, if you don't get the touchdown variance and you're not running, it usually evens out because you can run them in. Like look at Mahomes when he's not getting them through the air, he's running them in. It's not really going to happen with some of these with the guys who don't scramble because it's a lot easier to just get a touchdown on a scramble because no one's open and the defense covering everyone than it is like if you're on a designed run. We've seen teams like Daniel Jones get stuffed multiple times before he actually got in there on a bunch of those designed runs. So if you're not getting those in the first, even if you do get one, it's not as good. So yeah, it's you need to be scrambling too if you're a quarterback. That opens up those touchdowns. And this is a guy who does scramble that I'm low on, Baker Mayfield, but it just keeps going downhill as far as his supporting cast. And I think, the warning signs are kind of out there to where he's a guy I would think about benching this week. He's outside of my top 12 at quarterback against the Eagles. And I think this could actually be a lower scoring game than people think, which also could play into that. I know people saw the Eagles kind of end up looked like shooting it out with the Rams, but really you had block kicks. You had a late comeback. The Eagles only had 7 points through into the third quarter. Mm-hmm. So if that happens and the Eagles are playing conservatively or they're eating clock because they're on, they're having some success, either way, it's gonna make it tough for Mayfield. And he just hasn't been getting there with the volume numbers passing wise. Like he has 233, 215, and 167 are his yardage totals. Some crazy touchdown catches from Ibuka. First week got him 3, but then 2 in week 2 and 1 in week 3. And I also saw him hit his hand on a scramble play or a sack last week against the Jets, and he was kind of shaking it out late in the game. Mike Evans looks like he's going to miss some time. I don't know if Godwin is back to completely ready yet. It's just, and then the offensive line is decimated. So just could be a spot where it's an uglier game than people anticipate against the Eagles. And even if it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean Mayfield has a ton of upside. He's just not doing those 400-yard passing games that we, have come to expect to kind of boost it out when he's struggling. And he still might be lucky, right? Like he still might be getting lucky as far as the turnovers too. I think he has a lot more turnover where he throws than have actually turned into negative plays for him. So yeah, a lot of reasons to be a little bit skeptical on Mayfield. He'll probably still lead them to a game-winning drive. So definitely
yeah,
take the Bucks and the
all
points.
For not.
But,
he also just lost his top tight end of the IR, Coke Heath. So he's really lacking some weapons.
Fullback, yeah.
But none of their tight ends had a catch last week. How many routes run rate are you projecting for Godwin this week? It's kind of correlated with my Baker projection, but
0. Zero.
He's supposed to
0
return
right now.
He's supposed to return this week, and with Evans out, they don't want to rush him, obviously, but I have him around 45%. But yeah, there's a chance that he sits out again or doesn't play as much. So definitely just a rough week to be leaning on Baker, which is why we said don't draft him as the QB7. Just, you shouldn't draft a quarterback in that range anyway. But where do you have him ranked to open the week though?
QB 14. So just like fringe option. Like what about you?
18. Yeah, so I'm low on him as well. I agree. I think he's off the QB1 radar for sure. But, a solid quarterback in 2 QB superflex formats. But that's not why you drafted him QB7.
Yeah, he's still doing enough on the ground to kind of not have a disaster week. But the fact that he's been getting lucky in the turnovers does worry me. And especially with a team like the Eagles, who now it's like, oh, their passing game is fixed. They'll go super ball control, and or just because they never know what to do on offense against the Bucs ever. Like if they just kind of shit the bed, it's not really we want kind of a shootout script for Baker. Like he's had a ton of last drives where he's put up sizable fantasy production that he would have been like a bottom 5 quarterback if not 4. So either way, I think Mayfield is kind of towing a little bit of a slippery slope here. But let's get to the quarterback prop for this week. Let's see. I gotta go. It's me this week, right? Quarterback.
Yeah. Last week I had Daniel Jones. I forgot the number I set, but we did rushing yards, and I think I set it like 25.5 or something, and you took under, and he rushed for 27.
He went over, right? Yeah,
he went over. We got to double check the number, but he had 27, so it was close. But I think you're on the under.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was, and I'm pretty sure he did get over on there was like one scramble or something where I remember him. I think he might have got most of it on that.
Yeah, only 4 carries.
But we got to go with Jackson Dart.
Oh,
start number 1 against what's been a very well schemed Chargers defense. So I'm going to go passing and rushing yards because that's important to kind of getting his complete outlook here. Let's see. Let's go with Jackson Dart passing plus rushing. Let's go 235.5.
Oh, I went with 230.5. I don't want to be on his under. I have his, let's break it out. I have his passing projection like 200 and his rushing at like 30, but I think I probably lowball on his rushing. Screw it. Give me the over.
Yeah. So I have his passing at about median about 215 ish, but like average about 220, mid 220s, and then the rushing around 25 yards. Just because again, like I think on early downs the Chargers will give up some yards, and then late downs, if they sack him or he can run if they sack him and then kind of make it up. So. I do think he has a decent yardage floor, but I think he can throw for some yards here, even if he's not maybe a great bet for 2 touchdowns or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's probably like the perfect line. But again, I think we had a similar prop like this last week. The fact that I'm kind of getting an explosive play in either his rushing or passing makes me lean the over. So yeah, I'll go with the over here, 235.5.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone probably who rostered Malik Neighbors last week is probably very interested in Dart going over that and hopefully getting a chunk of it through the air, because that was I mean Wandale too, but Neighbors, man, he went leading the league in receiving to almost getting shut out of the box score.
It was that it was bad. It was that he almost got him killed, right? There was the one. I think it was 1st and goal. It was goal to go, and Russ threw it through the uprights like 3 times.
Yeah, it's Russ.
One of them was on 4th down. One of them was on 4th down, right? He just threw it out the back of the end zone. Just hilarious stuff. Dart won't be doing that, at least.
I mean, there's a correlation too with Dabo. It's like those games where they're missing a kicker, and the more they go for it, the more like he just every play is for neighbors, and he just gets them killed. Remember that Dallas game?
Yeah.
I think it was, or the Washington game. Like there was one. There was a couple early last year, and neighbors just getting, I mean, every single target. And then I think that the week after he like against Dallas, he just got knocked out, and like because they didn't, they ended up either going for a field goal or something. But he was just like laid out on the sideline, and like no one was like looking at it like on the.
Right.
It was weird. But let's go to running back top 5 week 4. We got.
I got Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I got McCaffrey, Taylor, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, and Bijan Robinson. I guess James Cook is popping because of the when the Bills are favorites. Like, yeah, they do work in Davis late, like, but that assumes like they'll actually get there. But James Cook they get him the money, so I've noticed that Davis has just played less overall snaps, even losing some to Ty Johnson. So I'm a little less concerned about Cook in this spot. Because they're treating him like a guy who they just paid a ton of money to, and running back has kind of been a little bit volatile this year. But love Taylor. I mean, Taylor, he's been doing it in the pass game, the run game. He just looks great out there. So definitely want to be high on him. Who are you high on for this week, though?
I'm high on Jaylen Warren, who for the first time ever is really close to RB1 value in my projections. He's my RB13 this week. And yeah, he's like the true workhorse back now for the Steelers. It's been a long time coming, but it's got to be a career high. 23 touches, he had 18 carries. Didn't do too much with them, but again, he got 5 receptions for 34 yards, so he's getting the volume, and that's what we want long term with him. Caleb Johnson is still in the doghouse, like that's putting it mildly. He didn't see a touch. And Kenneth Gainwell is just kind of a change of pace option. So this spot, against the Vikings, it's, the good defense. But I think they're going to lean on Warren again here. And again, just with the massive volume I'm projecting for him, he's like a high-end RB2 now. We can trust him in that range right now. And the other guy I'm high on is Woody Marks, who you talked about on the waiver pod. He's his stock's going up every week now, it seems, because last week they made Dameon Pierce a healthy scratch. So Woody Marks, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, last week, like 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, when you bet Woody Marks at 9-1, great bet, should have hit that. But yeah, Dameon Pierce was a healthy scratch again this week. But Woody Marks is the clear backup to Nick Chubb. But then this week, Dare wasn't even the third down back, so it's really a 2-back committee now, and there's a decent chance that this could just be a hot hand situation where if Marks, has a good run or two, can leapfrog Nick Chubb. I think at this stage in his career, Nick Chubb isn't like, the lead back and, has a long leash at any given time. Marks can become the lead back. I know they have a bad offensive line. This isn't, a great offense right now, but still, he has RB3 flex value in this backup role anyway. But at any time, he could leapfrog Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb can get hurt, and he could be an RB2. So I think he should be added in every league. And if you're in a pinch, you could even use him this week. So I'm high on him this week and kind of long term. So he opens the week as my RB35, and just long term, I think he's a guy we need to be rostering.
Yeah, he definitely, the fact that he was able to kind of even draw even with Chubb in terms of the snap counts. I still expect Chubb to probably handle the goal line work, but we've seen Marks kind of mix in there, and could definitely see a changing of the guard. We saw that in Houston a couple years ago under, I think DeMeco Ryans was there. It was CJ Stroud's rookie year, and they started with, it was Pierce was kind of the lead back, and then it became a 50-50 split for like a week or two. And then all of a sudden it was Devin Singletary every week. And now I know it's kind of, Chubb like is a veteran and that would be Singletary's, but it just shows that they're willing to kind of roll with, to your point, the hot hand and the better back. And Chubb probably expected to kind of trend down as the year progresses. I know his numbers don't look terrible right now, but we've already heard kind of whispers that he wasn't great in the offseason. So, I think the fact that we're seeing the snap count rise so high for Marks and at the expense of Pierce and all those other Jags that they have on in that backfield, I think is good news.
And this is a great matchup. Great matchup against the Titans at home. Maybe they play with a lead at some point too.
Maybe, probably not.
Well,
the Texans? I mean, against the Texans, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Woo. But you mentioned Gainwell. How fitting was it that he scored the first touchdown on a 1-yard rush, even as Warren is having his breakout. But
the week after you were on his anytime touchdown at what was it, 7-1?
Yeah, and then I faded. I should have faded him again on the volume, but and it would have hit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Jaylen Warren's definitely, and for good reason, the lead back there. I'm high on a guy another one of these guys who hasn't got it going, but we kind of talked about this last week with rookies. They're going to pick it up start to pick it up. Like, I think I was a little higher on Hampton last week and got helped out by an injury, but this week I'm going with Genty. He is still a top 10 running back for me. He's an ECR RB15. I know it doesn't look great, but I think you mentioned it's been a big offensive line issue there, and that's not going away, but you are back at home indoors against a defense that tended to let offenses go up and down the field. And, we even heard Pete Carroll before the Washington game say, we want to get Genty more snaps, and they end up falling behind big in this one. So I think, though, they're going to want to feed him on a consistent basis. And if the game script goes a little bit more favorably, which is about to pick them, which is where I think it should be, in this spot against the Bears, they should probably even be short favorites. I don't know if I'm ready yet to say the Bears should be road favorites, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, Genty still is a guy that I expect to get 85% of the carries, and I think his passing down work will tick up, or he'll just play on the passing downs where they actually ask him to run routes because he hasn't been good at pass blocking at all. So the negative game scripts do tend to hurt him at times because then he's out of the game. But I think this is a good spot for him against a very vulnerable Bears run D. So that's who I'm high on for week 4. Who are you low on, Turner, for week 4?
I'm low on Chase Brown, all the way down to RB21 for me. And my Rachaad White pre-Buck Irvin comp is looking pretty accurate now. Just because, he's been super inefficient, only averaging 2 yards per carry so far, but only a minus 0.9 rushing yards over expected. He's just getting hit behind the line of scrimmage a ton. So I don't even think it's all his fault. I think it's really the offensive line is letting him down. But again, he has no real threat behind him with P. Ryan and Taj Brooks. I think he's going to continue being the workhorse back. So we still got to project him for, workhorse volume. But just the way this offense has dropped off, kind of as expected with Joe Burrow out, is the bigger concern for Chase Brown, because he needs the offense, to be in the red zone and moving the ball and having positive game scripts to kind of provide value. So it's kind of just all falling apart for him. And he just needs to be more involved in the passing game as well. But this is a tough matchup at Denver as pretty big road dogs. So I'm low on Chase Brown here and long term, unless Jake Browning can turn around or they bring in, another quarterback, it's going to be tough for Brown with that O-line and just the overall state of this offense. And the other back I'm low on is Javonte Williams, who continues to look excellent. He has proven us wrong so far. He looks great out there, still operating as the lead back, but this is a brutal matchup against the Packers. They're probably going to fall behind pretty early, and we've seen Miles Sanders get more involved as, the Cowboys get into a trailing game script. So that could hurt Javonte here. And Miles Sanders himself has looked decent. And we have yet to see Jaden Blue happen. That might be kind of in the second half of the season if the Cowboys season is falling apart. So the window to kind of sell high on Javonte might be closing soon. But, I'm still projecting him as the workhorse back for now. But just with the really difficult matchup, he's all the way down to RB29 for me this week against the Pack.
Yeah, it's he had a fumble last week. He had 10 carries. He had the 22 yarder, but the Cowboys, they've been blocking it up well. I think that's why, Sanders and Williams have looked better. So yeah, long term, I would be selling because this Cowboy team is going to looks like they're going to get into a lot of those shootout games. Because remember, they do play their home games indoors, so it could be rough.
And Tyler Booker, he's probably going IR too, right? This is a week injury. He's doubtful this week, but he could be out for several weeks. It looks like. So that's
Chase Brown's problem. Interior line. First, you lost the center in Dallas, and now you're losing. Another one. So yeah, that could be very problematic. And we don't know if what the Cowboys are going to do to replace CeeDee Lamb in the short term. I mean, I don't know if Williams is like a favorite to get pick up some of that slack as much as even like a Chase Brown. If he's not running the ball, they'll try to get him going in the pass game with screens and things like that. I think he had 4 catches last week, whereas I don't know if they'll do that with Williams. He's a good pass blocker, and Ferguson's been kind of the underneath check down guy to pick up that slack. So yeah, it could be. It is. I think it's a great time to sell high. The Cowboys, they held it close against Philly, and then probably shouldn't even won against the Giants. They could be sitting here 0-3 right now, and would look even worse. So yeah, I'm low on Ramondre Stevenson. Man, he just keeps fumbling, and 2 things don't mix well: fumbling and 3-back committees. Because now, I know Gibson fumbled as well, so it could just be all Travion next week. We don't know, but Stevenson's had the issues dating back to last year, and it's. I don't think he's going to continue to get the same amount of goal line usage, and probably also is just going to see a decrease in carries on early downs as well, at the expense of Henderson and or Gibson, who was cutting into his role as it was. So he's kind of getting squeezed from both sides and missing out on goal line work. You already had the a big outlier in terms of explosives with near 100-yard receiving game in week against the Dolphins it was. So yeah, I think he's another guy to sell high. He's ECR number 32, but I would not start him this week. He could get benched. He could be there to pass block. He could kind of be there only for checkdowns. There's a high degree of uncertainty, so I'd rather go with the upside guy in Henderson in that spot. And then another guy, Isaiah Pacheco, RB34 in ECR. And if we're not seeing it against the Giants, who came into the game with the worst run defense, I don't think we're going to see it. It's the issue is, number one, the Chiefs are always a good bet for top 2 pass rate on a slate, them and the Bengals. And the Bengals have kind of trended down, and at least they did in pass rate over expected last week with Browning in there. So we'll see if that continues. But that makes the Chiefs the highest expected pass rate team, especially now that they're going to start getting receivers back. And as I've been alluding to, they tend to give Kareem Hunt the first crack at all of the goal line and short yardage work, which what are you really doing with Pacheco now? Because he has kind of picked up some snaps in 2-minute drill, but that's not usually a place where you want, like a Mahomes running. Like Mahomes can kind of scramble. He can get it downfield. 2-minute means you're probably behind. So, maybe he gets a break in the first half sometimes and gets some easy check downs, but he's not a great receiver out of the backfield either. So just really not getting the type of work that we need from him, and not enough carries for a pass heavy team that might get pass heavier because they're not very good this year. At least they haven't been so far. So Pacheco's not a guy I want to start either. And he's kind of fringe ranked there in ECR. So Stevenson and Pacheco for me. Who you got for the running back prop?
I got, let's go with Alvin Kamara. Had 1 catch last week, despite them losing by like 80 points. And his kind of like his target rate's down so far. So want to do his reception prop here with you. And kind of get your thoughts on that, especially in a potential blowout. Like, are we going to see Kendre Miller mix in a little bit more later on? But I'm going to set his reception prop for you at 3.5. Are you over or under that?
All right, so he's been on the field for 83% of their past plays, and he's run a route on 73% of them. So that's still pretty much top tier among running backs in terms of pass down usage. So the fact that they're more than 2 touchdown underdogs, it's actually a perfect spot for the guy getting a ton of pass down work. He should get 2-minute drill. He should get, all the third down and things like that. So yes, it could be a blowout and you could see Miller mix in late, but I do think Buffalo is a good spot for a guy like Kamara to bounce back here. And we've seen Rashid Shaheed, see a little bit of a downtick in his role. I think Brandon Cooks, he's probably going to kind of trend down as the season progresses. And Juwan Johnson just couldn't keep up his crazy rate as it was. So we actually saw him even, trend down. And that's important because Kamara is always on the field with those starters were playing a lot of snaps. So I think this is another one of those things where I think the trend regresses to the mean. Like, I don't think Kamara is a good bet to match his season average in carries, which is 16.7. Like, he had 18 and 21 carries over the past 2 games. 18 in a blowout is the reason why he didn't get, I think, a ton of catches. He got 18 carries. You can't be mad at that. So this week I have it closer to like 14 carries and 4 catches, and to get him to 18 total touches in the blowout. And I think that's probably a fair expectation for him. So yeah, what about you? Do you have him more of a 3.5 guy, or do you have him at 4 too?
Yeah, like 3.7. So that'd be a coin flip at 3.5 if you use a Poisson distribution. But yeah, it's Rattler's dropped back he's attempted like 40 passes a game, so he's had opportunities. It's just he's looking downfield more. He does scramble a bit, a lot more than like Derek Carr. So yeah, I just noticed that he's just not getting as many checkdowns as you'd expect in these like blowout, massive pass volume games. So, and like just 3.5 sounds about right to me. I think that's what his prop will be. Maybe minus 140 the over, but was worth talking about because that was kind of part of the reason we liked him in that range, and we just haven't seen it yet. But I think he'll see some positive regression there going forward.
Yeah, because like I said, it seems a little more deliberate with the amount of carries he's getting in those and they really haven't gotten blown out. They've gotten blown out once. That was that was last week.
Yeah, exactly. 2 days ago or whatever.
But I think it's probably there's probably a number of touches. Like there's probably okay, we're gonna get him. We want to get him 20 touches, but if he's got 18 carries, then we're doing other things. But I think that's the one I'm not too worried about going forward as much as just the overall lack of like touchdown opportunities if the Saints keep sucking. All right, wide receiver, top 5 for week number 4. We got CeeDee Lamb. Looks like he's gonna miss some time, so there'll be a new number or new top 2 guy for you, I guess.
Yeah, and Chase and Neighbors are outside of my top 5, so this is my first time looking at my top 5. But I got Puka Nacua number 1. Oh my God, JSN number 2. Hallelujah! I fucking love that. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and Devontae Adams. What the? I got Devontae in my top 5 now, so I have 2 Rams inside my top 5.
Yeah, it's kind of the throwback days where with Cooper Kupp and Nacua when they were both productive at the same time. I think you could start to see some of that. Devontae, I thought he had a bigger game. I think he only had 3 catches last.
Well, he almost had. He almost had like 2 more touchdowns. Yeah, like 2 of them, right? He could have had a massive game. Still had a good game with the touchdown, but he was very close to having a massive game.
The story of the Rams is, they should have had more touchdowns. They always seem to come in a little short in that category for some. It's usually just red zone issues or whatever not. But definitely agree with you on Puka number 1. Amon-Ra is actually number 2 for me. He's just going to be able to, I think, continue to eat. And that Browns defense is tough, but I think they're going to need a guy like Amon-Ra in those spots because he can kind of do some things against all coverages. And then JSN number 3 right there. Nice. Thursday night for him. Chase and JJ round out the top 5. Still gonna be a little conservative. It's week 4, but I think Chase, he had just a bad break on it looked like it was already a penalty on a play, and then he got hit and fumbled, and then it was just a lot of things going on there. And JJ, I think it kind of hurt both sides with just that game script last week of that coin. So now that they're playing different teams, should be a little better for both involved in week 4. But who are you high at wide receiver this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with like two random guys a little bit lower. I am high on Quentin Johnson. He's inside my top 30 now, wide receiver 27, so that's noteworthy. I think we could trust him now. But Troy Franklin is a guy I think I was high on last week, and he followed up that 8-catch, 89-yard touchdown game with a complete dud, 2 catches for 8 yards, which is why I said, he's on my radar. We probably can't trust him in our starting lineups quite yet. And sure enough, Cortland Sutton ended up being the alpha once again in this offense. He's the only guy we can trust right now in this offense. But Franklin's underlying usage was still there for long-term upside, where he ran a route on 94% of Bo Nix's dropbacks. Just his target share just took an absolute massive hit. But there was 2 targets I went back and watched where Bo just completely missed him on like a wide open, would have been like a 15, 20-yard gain. And then he gave him just an absolute hospital ball around the goal line where not one, but 2 defenders nearly killed Franklin. But he could have easily had, 4-catch, 40-yard touchdown type of game based on his 4 targets. So, again, I think just the underlying usage is there to kind of have him on your bench as a potential wide receiver 3 option if things line up. But the Sean Payton offense, the only guy we can truly trust is still Cortland Sutton. And then the next guy I have in my season-long notes to always bring him up if Alec Pierce is going to miss, which could be the case this week. Pierce is in the concussion protocol, so I have him as doubtful. So it's usually A.D. Mitchell steps up pretty much as a 1-to-1 replacement for Pierce. And I was low on Pierce once Daniel Jones was announced as the starting quarterback. I thought, Anthony Richardson's perfect for Pierce. He just chucks it downfield to him a couple times a game. But Daniel Jones has been doing that to Pierce as well. So Pierce has been crushing it so far through the first 3 weeks. So I think, Mitchell's going to be in that role. And Mitchell is still a very raw receiver. Sometimes he's not on the same page with his quarterback, but he's very, very talented. So if he and Daniel Jones are on the same page on a couple downfield throws, he could have a massive game here. So he's my, wide receiver 60. You're not playing him in traditional season-long head-to-head leagues, but in DFS, GPPs and props where, you're going for high upside alt market type plays, he is definitely on the radar. Or if you're in a deeper league and you just need a guy to have a big game, Mitchell could be that guy. He's like a discount kind of Alec Pierce. So I think he's worth mentioning here. Even with the tougher matchup against the Rams, they might have to be more pass heavy. It could be a trailing game script. So I think A.D. Mitchell is like a sneaky guy in the wide receiver 60 range for me this week.
Yeah, he's like he has like a wide range of outcomes. I feel like he could lead the week in fantasy points, or he could be the cardio king. Depending on how they play it.
Yeah, he could be the favorite for cardio king. He's probably like a 50-50 chance to have 0 catches. And
but not 0 targets, I don't think. I think 0 catches might be more likely than 0 targets.
Cardio king. If he gets a target, then cardio king he's out. But I was going to say not a 50% chance of leading the week in fantasy points, but higher than people expect. Maybe like 3%. But yeah, wide range of outcomes. That's why I say he's not meant for like head-to-head formats, but all these like DFS GPPs or prop markets, things like that, where you could bank on his upside. That's where you want to be investing on a guy like this that has just a wide range of outcomes.
Yeah, definitely, because he'll take over that about 80% of the snaps, unless the coach end up leading for a ton. Maybe then they bring Doohan in for more snaps, but usually it's Mitchell if they're in a passing situation. I'm high on T. Higgins this week. I think this is one of those situations where people are kind of looking like, T. Higgins, but talk about a guy that has number 1 overall scoring for the week potential. I think T. Higgins still in that conversation. It's just, got off to a rough start with 3 catches for 33 in week 1 against tough Cleveland defense, an underwhelming but passable 3 for 56 and a touchdown against the Jags on 8 targets, and then just 1 catch on 2 targets for 15 against Minnesota. However, T. Higgins out there running a route on 93% of the pass plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. And we talked about this in the past with Jake Browning. He has had some quality starts in his tenure with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know it's a tough spot, but you are a big underdog to Denver. You can't run the ball, so one way or another, you're probably going to see enough dropbacks for that 90+% route rate to come into play here. And then you got Denver, which tends to be very good at taking away the opponent's top receiver, and that would open things up for the number two. And we saw that with Downs and Pierce combining for like 119 yards on 10 catches in week 2. We saw that with Quentin Johnston, 6 for 89 on 10 targets. And even Keenan Allen, another 7 for 65 and 1, where McConkey only 4 for 40 when now, so Denver's just, even if it's not like an outside receiver, they're just good at, they want to take away the opponent top option. I think that works in Higgins' favor. So I think he's a great kind of bounce back candidate because everyone's low on, everyone's like, Browning, no, we're done with him. And then Higgins has got to kind of getting caught up in what was just a ridiculous outlier game script. It was just a comedy of errors at one point where I think Nance said it like, hey, we thought maybe they could score before half and they'll be down, have a chance to kind of get back in this game. And then it's just like fumble, pick six, fumble, like just ridiculous. So I expect Higgins. The important thing with him is he's running routes, and another important thing is we talked about earlier. He has a cardio king on his team in Yosevach, and I think if you look at some of the other target per route numbers for the Bengals, like Noah Fant isn't going to continue to get 37% target per route rate. Like, so there are a lot of ways for Higgins and Chase to get some progression here.
Exactly. And I was going to ask a follow up on how you're handling this, but Fant suffered a concussion, so I always consider a guy doubtful once they enter the protocol. So Fant might not play, which means we might see Tanner Hudson active. How are you handling? Because what was it, week 11?
Same target share.
35%?
Same target per route, like generally just because it would be the same role, but
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Same.
No, I mean like
35% routes.
I'm not talking about, you know where I'm going. I'm going target per route, 35%, Mr. Target per route run rate legend, Tanner Hudson, Mr. 35%. Like that could be a problem too if Browning's just picking on him. I'm mostly joking right now, but that is something to monitor because he and Hudson were connection in the late part of the season where Browning took over in 2023. So something I'm monitoring for sure. But I think Higgins, where do you have him ranked though to start the week?
Wide receiver 24. He's wide receiver 39 in ECR, which is
crazy. My God. Yeah, I have him wide receiver 29. So just higher than ECR. People are panicking too much. I would say, if by theory only 1 out of 12 of you own Higgins, I would float out like a buy low offer on him, right? Someone might be willing to trade him for pennies on the dollar at this point after last week.
Yeah, like you can kind of, I would trade me some like Javonte and something like that, and try to just upgrade the team, and because Higgins, like we talked about this, Browning most weeks he's gonna either because he gets himself in, turnovers are actually good most of the time for like the offense because they just come right back out on the field. So
in a negative game script. It's perfect.
Brian Flores is not Browning actually got the best of Flores the first meeting, so it can go either way or one of those things. But just because it's a tough matchup in Denver doesn't mean the receivers can't get fantasy points. For this offense, like it's not going to be an every week thing. I think because what are the Bengals going to do? Where are they going to get their yards? Like running the ball? No.
Gotta throw it.
So buy low him, Chase, if you can. I would definitely. Low. Who you low on a wide receiver this week?
I'm low on Kayshon Boutte. He's all the way down to wide receiver 58 for me against the Panthers. And just one of the most common questions I got like heading into week 2 is like, why the hell are you so low on Boutte? Like, what the hell? What do you have? 6 catches, 108 yards. People are just wondering why he was outside my top 50. And I was just like, that's where the underlying data is pointing me. And sure enough, these past 2 weeks, he's come back down to earth where he's had a sub 10% target rate back-to-back weeks now. He bailed people out in week 2, right? Because he caught a touchdown. But
Yeah.
as of now, he's going to be a touchdown dependent option, and he's getting downfield targets, so he could have some big weeks. But you have to just realize he's going to have a wide range of outcomes. He's going to be very volatile. This whole entire wide receiver room has been very volatile the past few weeks. You have to figure someone like Diggs is probably just going to get more involved as his knee is healthier and he's more in sync with Drake May. So Booty's just a guy that I think he's, a dart throw in the wide receiver 4 or 5 range, but that's about it. I think people are expecting or hoping he'd be the alpha in this offense, and I just don't think they're going to have that yet anyway. So he's all the way down to wide receiver 58 for me after the past couple weeks with the low target share. And the other guy I'm going to mention I'm low on, because instead of just wasting 3 minutes saying why I'm low on someone like Cedric Tillman, I want to talk about Ricky Pearsall, who I have at wide receiver 26. He's coming off a massive 8-catch, 117-yard game. I'm very high on him heading into the season. I'm still very high on him as a talent. I think he's going to be excellent the rest of the season. But one of the things that you talked about heading into the season was just this is the time he's going to be at his literal ceiling, because last week he had Juwan Jennings out. Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle are both out. I mean, this is the peak time for Pearsall to be going off, which he is. But, Jennings should return this week. We're going to see Demarcus Robinson back in the fold. That might help Pearsall, because that could be just a cardio king type situation. But down the road, a few weeks from now, once Kittle and Ayuk are in the offense, it's going to be tough for Pearsall to be commanding this type of target share. So you could roll him out there this week. I have him wide receiver 26. His ECR is wide receiver 20, which I think is a bit high. But I think if there were a time to kind of sell high on him, it'd be now, because I think once everyone's back and healthy, I think he's going to be back in that wide receiver 3 flex mix. So just depending on your situation, enjoy the ride right now or sell high, depending on your team. But I think Pearsall's peak is happening as we speak. And then later, week 5 on, his value is going to slowly creep down. So that's kind of where I'm at with Pearsall. But where do you have him ranked this week, and where do you kind of have him ranked rest of the season now after these first few games?
I'm going to have him wide receiver 17 this week. But the thing is, I'm skeptical on Jennings this week. I don't know for sure if he'll be back. I do have him, playing kind of like it's like 70% chance of playing, like a true questionable type of player. But yeah, that's kind of it with like this week. I'm not as concerned. I think the Jaguars have been running a little bit lucky on defense. You know what I mean? I don't think they're like a shutdown defense. So with Kittle out, it's going to be McCaffrey. And if Jennings is out, I still want Pearsall running routes alongside, who is it? Demarcus and Kendrick Bourne and Valdez Scantling.
Yeah, Valdez Scantling and Kendrick Bourne, and they got Sky Moore. Sky Moore ran a route.
That's exactly what I want.
How was he not the cardio king? Well,
he doesn't get on the field.
Well, he ran a ton of routes last week. I think he got a target. I'm going to go watch that. But yeah, this is going to be like Mark Andrews last week, where I start off low on. I assumed Isaiah Likely was in, and then once Likely was out, Andrews was my tight end 9, and I was like +6 ECR. I have Jennings pretty much fully healthy in my projections this week, so that's why I have him at wide receiver 26. But if Jennings is out again, Pearsall will probably be inside my top 15. I just felt like I couldn't figure out where else we could talk about Pearsall. I feel like that was the time to talk about him. So I'm not low on him necessarily for this week, but just planning rest of season, you just have to realize that we're in Ricky Pearsall's ceiling best case scenario right now. Probably this week and next week. But if you're good at wide receiver and you're hurting at running back or tight end or quarterback, whatever, like the sell high window would sort of be these next few weeks.
Yeah, like I think this week I would probably I would have to get a stud, like a true
right.
I don't even, because I would have to get like a Nakua or somebody like back, because I don't know if there's many receivers.
You're not getting Nakua from, but
I know.
Package deal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying I wouldn't just trade him to sell high, kind of like because he has another kind of decent spot. And then if you look at, like, I know you're the odds maker, so you know how like important this is. Last week was in on 45 of 45 pass snaps and also 18 of 20 run snaps. So like the odds of him just running like 100% route rate this week, like if Jennings is out, is pretty high, especially if Sky Moore is mixing in. That means that he might just be in that role regardless. So yeah, I want to wait. I probably just want him in my lineup this week.
I feel bad. I'm not like again. I was team Pearsall and Adunze heading into the season, so I'm still team Pearsall and Adunze. However, let me flip this. I just saw what I'm thinking. TLDR here. Would you trade Ricky Pearsall for Brian Thomas Jr. right now, 1-for-1?
Yeah.
So you would trade to get Brian Thomas. I think Brian Thomas Jr. manager might consider that at this point, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think Brian Thomas Jr. his issues have been mental. Like it's been drops and Travis Hunter's trending downward in snap count. So the writing's on the wall Brian Thomas could essentially be out there with 4 cardio kings if Hunter is going to continue to trend down in his route rate. And I expect Strange to kind of pick it up, and I do like Tootin to get more targets than probably ETN would if he was running a route. So I don't think that'll act, but he is a definite buy low. I would say I think BTJ.
I think you could flip Pearsall for BTJ right now. I think there's leagues out there where you can make that happen. So that's my point. I'm high on both. I agree. I can't remember the last time we had this kind of situation similar to Brian Thomas Jr., but it's happened in the past, and usually it's short term. Like you said, this is mental. He should bounce back. He's too good not to. So this is kind of the time to buy low on BTJ as well.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about, since you kind of did the same thing, I was going to talk about Khalil Shakir and how I don't think that every week, like I don't think he should even be in the top 35 this week. I know he had a good week last week and at the expense of Coleman, and so everyone's now back in on Shakir, but there's just going to be a lot of variance with the Bills, kind of like the Broncos, because the Bills, the difference with the Bills is they actually can get ahead with these game scripts when they're favorites, big favorites and whatnot. So could Shakir have another big game this week? Maybe, yeah, but like that's the case every week, and it's still, we see what happens with the Bills receivers. You got the fifth receiver for the Bills mixes in more than on most teams too, with Elijah Moore or Shavers. So don't want him, but the guy I'll mention instead that I noticed I'm very low on. I have him outside my top 40, and I know you were hiring him last week. It's kind of like a high floor guy, so I'm curious what you think on Debo, because I am low on him, because even before the game got kind of out of hand late, he was just playing fewer snaps in certain personnel groupings, and that was with Noah Brown. And then Noah Brown went down and then kind of changed things up a little, and game was out of hand, so there was some variance there. But overall, his route rate was way down, his snap rate was way down, and that was true even early in the game. And they still have 3 running backs that they like, so they don't have to give him, what did he get, 3 carries last week, I think it was, so they don't even have to give him that every week. So I think there's going to be a lot of variance, and obviously if Terry's out, that changes things. I know he had like a quad issue or whatever, but if Terry's in and things are just as they are, I think Debo's a guy that's trending down a bit in terms of like he's going to be volatile, kind of like a Jaden Reed. But curious what you think on Debo, because he's all the way up at 23 in ECR, which I just think is that's way high.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't really know why he didn't play as much. Obviously, the blowout led to that. But like you said, before the blowout really happened, he was playing less. And again, I said he had a high floor because I don't know. I thought Jaden Daniels is playing. We were setting that lineup on Tuesday. So once Mariota's in there, that does change things. And then I later in the week, I was on Bills under 1.5 receptions because I thought he'd be in the B-Rob role. It did look like they were kind of using Debo as sort of like the Eckler replacement at times. So he was lining up in the backfield and just getting a target, out in the flat. So they were kind of just like trying to figure out how to use him without Eckler. But I did notice the drop in playing time. I'm trying to see where I have him ranked. But yeah, Terry McLaurin's hurt. He might not play. So
That would change it. Yeah, that would change
Debo's projection this early in the week is very hard to set. But yeah, I still have him, inside my top 30. I'm like wide receiver 28 right now. But again, with Terry's status up in the air, Jaden status is up in there. It's really hard to project. But yeah, that does sort of kill the narrative that, he is a high floor option, because if they're going to change up his usage that extreme, that's a red flag. So we got to monitor that. But yeah, you're right to be lower on him to kind of start the week, and then we'll go from there. Again, just Eckler, they're not going to just use the running backs to replace Eckler. They don't really. Eckler's like his own special type of player that they were kind of using Debo. Even like Jalen Lane was kind of playing some of the Eckler type underneath role. So we have to monitor this closely, because it was not the same as weeks 1 and 2 for him, which is a concern.
Yeah, I always want to be a little cautious on a guy like him too, just because he's a guy that could trend down as the year progresses. We've seen him have issues with conditioning at times or whatnot. And then the other thing was just Lane had a really good game as a punt returner, and he's been seeing a big uptick in routes. And then McCaffrey had a really good game with that explosive TD. So there's just a lot of uncertainty, which is not what I want in a top 25 receiver, if I can help it. So like other guys have been knocked down, like Ridley and and I just think Debo should be a little bit more in that range, kind of like people are treating T. Higgins. Like that's kind of where Debo is for me too.
Definitely fair. Yeah.
All right. What do we got? Wide receiver prop. Let's see. See if there's anyone. Actually, I got one guy in mind. We started to talk about him, but I want to see if there's anyone else I want to look at. Actually, yeah. Let's do a double one again. So I'll set two guys. I'll set a sort of spread between two guys, and you can pick one.
Okay.
Receiving yardage. Let's go Marvin Harrison Jr.
Boy.
On Thursday night against what's been a very good Seahawks defense, to the point where the Cardinals actually just flipped, and they were the favorite to open, and now they're a 1.5 point dog as we record this. Oh. So Marvin Harrison Jr. against another guy who's a junior, Brian Thomas. Receiving yardage, and I will make Thomas a 3.5 yard favorite.
I was literally thinking 3.5. I'm gonna go with I got BTJ here. I think that's a good line. I think he's gonna overcome whatever this is soon enough. Marvin Harrison, though, this is more of a long-term concern. It's also just the dynamic between him and Kyler Murray, which is never going away. So that's an even bigger concern. And then just Trey McBride, just a complete target hog, kind of limits Marvin's upside week to week. So, man, you couldn't have put two trickier wide receivers to project right now. But I'm going to take the points here, or I'm going to give the points here with BTJ minus 3.5.
You're going to lay it? Yeah, I mean, I think that's I kind of wanted you to take the dog there, so I think that's sharp. Yeah, Thomas he's been leaving yards on the field where I don't know if it's a McBride issue, because the Cardinals actually have exactly what we want. They have Cardio King Zay Jones, Cardio King Michael Wilson, a lot of heavy personnel. So like when Harrison's running routes against McBride, but also like Tip Raymond and like Elijah Higgins when it's not McBride. So he should be a lot more productive, I think. And this week, they are in an underdog spot. I think they were, they closed as underdogs last week. They opened as favorites too. But either way, I think he's just been, him and Kyler, maybe it's the downfield passing for Kyler. He just doesn't see it as well. And maybe it's partly Harrison probably isn't getting open quite as much as I think we expected coming out of school with him. So it's concerning, because I think the Seahawks are also a tougher matchup than people might realize if you haven't been paying attention. Like, they're very, very good defense, even when guys are out in the secondary. So he's always kind of just a middling, wide receiver 3 for me. And Thomas, I still have, as a kind of mid-range wide receiver 2 that could easily get back to wide receiver 1 status with, this week. All right. Tight end, top 5. Who you got?
Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft, Jake Ferguson, and Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I got McBride, Bowers, Ferguson, Warren, and Sam Laporta. And Ferguson third for me just because we have seen him now sustain this high volume role, multiple weeks. And I think it's another spot for that against the Packers, with zone heavy team, big underdog at home. So another spot for Ferguson in what's just been a unpredictable tight end year. But who are you high on at tight end this week?
I'm high on Darren Waller. Just kidding. I'm high on
like,
John.
What?
No, I'm high. I gotta do that every so often. He is supposed to play this week. I'm high on the guy he's replacing, Jonnu Smith, who I talked about on the waiver pod. He opens the week as my tight end 13. Still in a tricky timeshare with Pat Freiermuth, but this week, he saw a huge increase in routes run all the way up to 84%. You had mentioned that he's basically the slot receiver in this offense, so he's just getting more playing time over those, scrub receivers and Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek. So I think that trend should stick. I don't think the Steelers want to get those other guys involved going forward. I think they traded for Jonnu for a reason, so I think they're just looking to get him as involved as much as possible. And that this week, they're going to play a much more zone-heavy defense in the Vikings. So I think this is a great spot for him. He usually thrives against zone. So I like him like a streamer option this week. But if anything were to happen to Freiermuth, he would have, potential top 7 upside. So he's a tight end, I think, worth playing this week, and he has some long-term value. Again, he was the tight end 5 overall last season, so we've seen his upside hit before. So I like Jonnu Smith this week against the Vikings as my tight end 13.
Yeah, it makes sense. He should be his route rate should have never been kind of like, I know it was similar to Freiermuth, and probably got all right, they're just kind of splitting snaps, but really it's 2 completely different roles. So in most weeks teams are going to have to use their slot receiver, 70% of the time or so, and 60 to 70%. So yeah, I think Jonnu's route should always be kind of a little more similar to last week than not going forward. So I think he's a good guy to stash now too. Get on your roster if somebody doesn't have him, because I think people were dropping him after week 1, or was it week 1? Did he get it? Oh no, he scored a touchdown, right?
He scored a touchdown week 1. Probably week 2. Let me.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't do much week 2. 4 catches, 27 yards. You could do worse.
Yeah, no, but that was you could. Yeah, people see the 27 I got.
Yeah.
But I am high on so couple guys in the same matchup that I think people are low on because other guys are coming back and they've been shaky. But at the tight end position, there's only so many guys you can really rely on to run routes or be part of the offensive game plan, first read and whatnot. So I'm high on both Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, baby. Nice. Kelce and Andrews are both inside my top 10, whereas they're 11 and 14 in ECR. And I get it with Kelce, production has been trending down for years now, but he actually looks better physically this year. And he's just made mistakes, I think, that have left plays out on the field. And I know he got to the spat with Reeds. There's a lot of kind of narrative-based stuff with the, Taylor, he got married, So, I think people are the market's going to be a little more down on him. That tends to be the case with certain successful people. They start getting crazy hate for no reason. So, Kelce, I think he's good to go. And I talked about this with Andrews. I think it was on our touchdown pod or something, but I was like, I'm just going to, Mark Andrews, we got to just stay the course because he's still out there getting first reads in the red zone. And sure enough, he ended up with the 2 touchdown game against the Lions. And I think this Chiefs matchup, you're going to see them play man coverage on the outside a lot of the time. That's just what they do. They have the cornerbacks capable of doing it. And that actually, unlike most tight ends, that actually is a positive for Mark Andrews because he can beat linebackers and safeties in man coverage. And so he tends to be one of their highest target per route guys, him along with Zay against man coverage. So I think this should be another good spot for Andrews here. against what could be an improved offense on both sides. So, likely people are like, all right, he's going to cut in. But again, two different roles. Likely's kind of just like a slot receiver. You're not going to have him on the field for blocking purposes really ever. Whereas Andrews is just kind of that number one tight end. So if even in Likely's first game back, I don't think that switches. Maybe if Likely continues to play like he did last year, over the long term it could. But for now, I want to continue buying low on Andrews if he's still going to be viewed as that in the market. But I think it's just early and they played late, so I think his ECR will rise. Mm-hmm. Who are you low on this week?
I'm low. I hate to do it, but I'm low on Juwan Johnson. Against the Bills, he's my tight end 14. And, I was high on him heading into the season because they don't have anybody else on this depth chart. So last week, had another solid 6-catch, 51-yard game. Continues to play nearly every snap. And one of the top targets in this offense. And it also helped that they got down, big early. Just an extreme pass-heavy game script. This should be the same thing. An extreme trailing pass-heavy game script where he's out there nearly every snap. But the Bills have been, shut down defense for tight end so far, allowing just 27 yards total. Granted, they've been playing just, shitty tight end rooms. But still, this could be one of the tougher matchups for him yet to get going. I still think he's a high floor option right now. But just outside my tight end one tier. And we have to remember that he's playing all these snaps now because Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill are both on the PUP list. I don't know when or if either of those guys return, but when they do, his snap share is going to go down, and then he's probably going to be more of a tight end too. So similar to Pearsall, we just have to realize that he's in his best case scenario ceiling phase right now. So yeah, he's still, on the fringe for me as a, streaming option as my tight end 14, but just a little bit lower on him than other weeks. I mean, last week he was my tight end 6. Like he's been pushing top 5 value. So I just have to note that he's almost 10 slots lower this week, just based on the matchup.
Actually, so I think that's interesting because I do have him, lower than last week too, but I don't think the Bills are really an imposing matchup. I think it was just because they played Andrews in week 1. And so because their linebackers and safeties are so shaky, like that's the guy you're going to kind of have to hone in on. Like that's not going to happen with Johnson, I don't think. And then in week 2, they played the Jets, who pretty much no tight end involvement with Ruckert and Taylor. And Ruckert still did catch a touchdown late. And then week 3, the Dolphins, which we know are going to just go cardio king with Tanner Connor and Julian Hill, who had 3 targets combined for the whole game. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a mirage. Like, I do think Johnson will get decent volume in this one. But, yeah, he's not like a top 8 guy like he was last week.
But the ride was fun, and maybe he'll go back to that next week. But, yeah, it's also not their fault that they played such shitty tight ends. But I just had to note that. But, yeah, it's just he's not pushing top 5 value for me this week. Where do you have him ranked, though? You said, is he still in your top 10?
Let's see. Probably not because Kelsey and Andrews. Let me see.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I've had so many guys, like Pitts. I'm high on Pitts now. Hawkinson's up there for me. I like Hunter Henry this week. There's just a lot of guys that I've moved up this week. Who do you have in the top 10? That's
I do have I do have Pitts there too, and I kind of hate it.
Yeah,
but I was gonna say Johnson is my tight end, so he's my best like tight end if you're in a league where you don't have one of those. Like he's the tight end 13, so unlucky 13. Yeah. Juwan Johnson, and then Fannin and Strange round at the top 15. So it's close, but yeah, I think he's just not like last week. It was like, oh man, he could be a top 5 guy, but poor went out for cardio king Moliki Matavao, who
he
got cut, and then Jack Stoll caught a touchdown on 2 catches.
He stole a touchdown.
Talk about it.
That was his first. That was his first career. I thought I could have swore he scored at least once for, I don't know, the Eagles or something back in the day, but that was his first career touchdown. So congrats, Jack.
Yeah, the Eagles. I mean, I would say it's more Jalen Hurts, but they don't really look to their. If it's not like the first read, Jalen Hurts is just out. out most of the time. So yeah, it's not because Calcaterra never does anything either.
That's true. I thought I could have swore 6-7 years ago Jack's still scored a touchdown, but what do I know?
For me, it's the guy on the opposite side of the game that I'm on in this one. It's Dalton Kincaid. So he looks like a top 8 tight end in ECR. He's my tight end 17. I know he's gotten more touchdowns this year, which have been lacking in the past. I do think that's reasonable to continue to expect an uptick in touchdowns compared to his career rate, because Josh Allen even mentioned before the season coming in that he missed them. And so I think he's looking for more in the red zone. But the issue with Kincaid is routes run. He is still running a route only about 60% of the dropbacks. And to kind of understand why that's so weird, just think about it from the perspective of, okay, 60% route rate, but you're also, when you're on the field, you're also only expecting like a 60% pass rate. And so like those two things mixed with the fact that the Bills are 16.5 point favorites. So, if they could lose a drive or two, or Kincaid could lose a drive or two just of passing period, if they really get out to that lead that we expect. So then you're kind of marrying all these things, and there's just such a low floor where if he doesn't get the touchdown, he could end up with 0 catches on the day, or, like a goose egg in fantasy production on 3 targets or something like that. So yes, it looks good right now, but don't think he's a guy that we could trust just yet, just based on that usage where you still have Knox playing half the snaps. You still have pretty much everyone rotating in and out on Buffalo. And that's even without them getting, necessarily big leads in every single spot. So it could, I think you're actually hoping for the Bills kind of suck this week and just, kind of rusty and have to keep it going. But even then, like I said, it's because he's a tight end, he's still not a guaranteed to run 100% of the routes he's playing in. He's in there for pass snaps. Like he might still block 1 or 2 times as well, because you like James Cook so much, you want to get him out there. So yeah, it's just a low floor situation. The ceiling's still high, but floor, I think, not top 10 for me over guys that run more routes like Kelsey and Andrews and Pitts. All right, close this out with tight end prop.
All right, these are 2 guys that have just been trending up for me the past couple weeks. I'm going to do Jake Ferguson versus Tucker Kraft receiving yards. And I'm going to set Fergie as the 2.5 yard favorite. Who are you taking?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to still take Fergie, but let me look at that.
And they play against
because I know
each other,
Kraft it's been so explosive, but he could be a little banged up, and we saw Fitzpatrick get a touchdon. John Fitz with the big F, big P.
I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
I know Nick bet on Musgrave and Kraft, which I thought was sneaky, because if Kraft is ruled out, then you get the Musgrave value kind of there. But we had mentioned Fitzpatrick just being a monster, 7 foot 280 or whatever he is. And then sure enough, he got the touchdown, vultured it. But Kraft did see a downtick in snaps. Maybe that bounces back this week, but who knows? But who do you have? Because they're kind of like a floor ceiling kind of combo here, because Fergie's just going to see massive volume, right, with CD out. So I'd say he has the higher floor. But are you taking the points here?
I'm taking Fergie, because I have it more. I have it about a twice that in terms of the differential, only because I think there is some correlation there where the more explosive Kraft is, the more Ferguson will just need volume, because that means that the Packers are probably doing well on offense and holding their out to an even bigger lead than maybe expected, because tight ends aren't supposed to make these 57-yard catches and whatnot, or whatever it was on that Thursday night game. So yeah, I have Kraft around 45 yards and Ferguson in the mid 50s. So I still think that's a fair expectation, given number one, we don't know how healthy he is. Number two, Dallas a lot better. Green Bay a lot better than Dallas. So and loves to run the ball. So it's another one of those high variance situations where it's like Green Bay's pass rate is so low that Kraft goes from 85% routes run and an explosive, but if he goes to 75% and no explosive, it's like a whole, and the Packers run a little more too. It's just a whole different type of floor. So I think I mentioned last week, or I think it was last week that Kraft could still be like a lower floor guy than we think. That's why I hate 2 weeks of data. Yep. So I still kind of feel that way. Whereas Dallas, I don't really just see how they magically improve their defense, and I don't see how they magically make up for all these CeeDee Lamb targets without Ferguson seeing an uptick anyway. So Ferguson's just a lot better, I think, floor ceiling this week, even though Kraft has been great most of the year. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Week 4 NFL Player Projections episode here on the Fantasy Flex. Be sure to subscribe to the pod so you don't miss an episode all season long. We have our waiver episode already out, and we will be back for the DFS show on Thursday. Also got the Touchdown show on the Action Network podcast on Friday. Shout out to Joe Gallant. Kerner and I will be there with him for that. Fantasy Labs, the app for all of our projections and more in season. You can use code FLEX20 for $20 off an NFL sub. Check out the Fantasy Labs app or go to fantasylabs.com/flex. We'll be back with our DFS pod tomorrow. You can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. And don't forget to download. And don't forget to check out Playbook on X as well. Until next time, let's get this money.